Girls, it's time to forgive your parents. And that's what we're going to talk about on this episode of One-Derful Life. How to just forgive your parents so you can move on. Hi, I'm Ditman. I'm an award-winning business professor on the collegiate level and the creator of College on Fleek and One-Derful Life. One-Derful Life is my way of describing how it feels when you've made peace with being single. I know that there are women out there who prefer to be single and they'll say things like, I don't want a man, but I've never felt that way. I've always wanted to be married and have a family, but it's never worked out for me, and I'm well over 40. And I got to the point where I said, the singleness isn't changing and it might never change. And that was really hard for me because part of my definition of a fulfilled life includes being a wife and a mother. But I got to the point where I said, I just want to be happy. And that's what One-Derful Life is about. It's about creating a life where you're happy and you feel content and you're not faking it. It's not about getting to a place where you say, like sour grapes, like, well, I don't even want a man, because I do, I want a man. And it's not about just resigning and giving up and saying, well, I guess I'm going to be alone forever, might as well make the best of it. That's not wonderful. One-Derful Life is about creating that life where you feel truly happy and content and you have a sense of joy, because that's the kind of vibe that's going to attract your Mr. Right. But even if he never shows up, you're happy anyway. Now, most of us can look back on something our parents did or didn't do and wish that things would have been different. My mom told me not too long ago, she said when she watches my brother and his wife raising their children, in a lot of areas, it's very different than how she and my dad raised us. And my parents were fantastic, but she was saying, there's so much more information now, like there's stuff that we never knew anything about that you guys know more about today. For example, the best practice at the time when we were coming up, 40 plus years ago, was if you put your baby down to sleep, and assuming that they'd been fed and they were dry and they weren't sick or anything, if the baby cried, you just let them cry themselves to sleep. Well, today, a lot of experts say don't do that. And so it's not that our parents were being cruel. They were doing the best that they could with the information that they had at the time. And listen, you may not have any issues with your parents, and that's cool, but you might take what we're going to talk about today and apply it somewhere else in your life, because we all have somebody that we need to forgive. And if you're sitting there going, not me, I'm going to encourage you to take a closer look. And the reason that this matters is a lot of times men over 40 have told me that they meet a lot of women who are bitter or angry, or they seem like they have a lot of baggage. And they're not talking about baggage like you have kids or you have an ex-husband. They're talking about baggage, which is you're angry, you're bitter. And that baggage is like weighing you down, and it's because you haven't cleaned up some of the things from your past. And even if your parents are deceased, or maybe you don't even know who they are, it doesn't matter. And forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. When you forgive someone, you're not saying, okay, what you did doesn't matter, it's totally fine, we can have a relationship now. No, forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is saying, you know what? I'm going to have to let this go. I'm going to move on because I just want to be happy. So I want to share with you some thoughts today that might help you along the road of forgiveness so you can shed some of that baggage and feel clean and clear. Number one, assuming that your parents raised you, then they were responsible for you for 18 years. Now, like in my case, my parents supported me through college, and so technically they were in charge of me for like 23 years. But you've been on your own longer than that. So let's say even if you're just now 40, so your parents were responsible for you for 18 years. And if you're like me and they kept supporting you and they put a roof over your head and whatnot, then that's a gift. Okay, they didn't have to do that. They were legally responsible for you until age 18. But even if you were just 40, they had you for 18 years, but 22 years, It's been your responsibility. And so that means you've been responsible for you for 4 years longer than they were. You getting what I'm saying here? Like 18 years was your parents, more years than 18 is you. So who's really the one to look at? And you might say, well, that 18 years though, that really screwed me up. Okay, let's say maybe your dad wasn't around. Like maybe he was actually physically not present. Or maybe he was just emotionally unavailable. Like maybe he worked all the time, or it just felt like maybe he didn't care. Like maybe he'd go to work, he'd come home, he'd turn on the television, and he just didn't care what you were doing. Okay, so what can be done about that now? Like what can he do now to make it different? You're a grown adult. So based on what you might be saying, like the first 18 years is what messed you up. Okay, well, he can't go back and fix any of that. And even if he apologized, okay, let's say he had this realization and he said to you on the phone or in person, man, I've realized I really screwed up when you were growing up. Like for 18 years, I wasn't there for you. I really screwed up. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. I'm going to do the best I can moving forward. Okay, well, based on your belief that it was the 18 years that really screwed you up that you can't get over, it doesn't matter what he does now or moving forward, you're screwed up. Now, I don't personally believe that, but I also don't believe that your ability to heal is based on that person doing something different. Because even if your dad were to start today, be a completely different person and do everything differently, I mean, you're already a grown adult and he can't fix what happened in the past. Okay, it's done. So you have to stop expecting him to. You have to let people off the hook and quit asking them to do something that they cannot do. Because here's the deal. No matter what happened back there, it's your mess now and you've got to clean it up. Now that's also good news because no one else can clean it up, but that means you can. Number 2, when you look at other people and you think, well, they had a good childhood, or they had great parents, or they still have a good relationship with their parents, or their parents are still alive, or whatever, nobody gets a pass on difficulty. And so, yeah, it's possible that maybe your friends did have a good childhood, but you know what? Everybody gets it somewhere. So maybe they had a good childhood growing up, but they're going to get challenges from people somewhere else. Maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's their spouse. Maybe it's going to be their own children. You know, everybody gets the opportunity to learn about forgiveness. Number 3, get clear about what you did get from your parents and then leave the rest. One friend of mine was telling me that her dad never complimented her growing up, and that caused her in her adulthood that anytime a man would tell her she was pretty, she thought she was in love. And you know, if you've known women who have done that, it's just a bad deal. Well, her brother has a daughter, and he never used to compliment his daughter on her looks because he was coming from a place of he didn't want his daughter to grow up thinking that her only value was in her beauty. So he wouldn't compliment her on her appearance. But he heard his sister talking about how our dad never complimented me, and he thought about it and he was like, oh, I better compliment my daughter. And so he would start saying things to his own daughter about like, you're so beautiful, or you're so pretty. And it's really awesome that what happened in that family is that now, moving forward, there's going to be a different dynamic in that family. Because the sister had that experience, then now the brother is aware of it, and now he's raising his daughter to hear something different, and he also has a son. And the son is going to see how dad treats the daughter, and then when the son has children, that's going to be different too. So the daughter having that experience and then sharing it is going to completely change the family dynamic. And listen, you may have gone through something really awful and really traumatic in your childhood, and I certainly do not want to minimize or belittle that. And you might need help. If it's a trauma, any type of abuse or neglect, you may want to get some help in dealing with that. Many times we cannot navigate healing a trauma alone. Get a therapist, talk to a clergy person, check into a support group, maybe journal, meditate, write letters that you never send. Whatever you have to do to get some healing and just lighten your load. I mean, how many more years? The way I heard it said one time was, when we're not forgiving, it's like we're dragging a dead body with us through our lives. And you don't want that, because it's unattractive, meaning it holds people at bay. They can pick up on that heaviness and they don't want to take it on. And part of living a wonderful life is you're free to enjoy things and you're free to have new experiences, which you can't do when you're dragging that dead body of unforgiveness. Now, it's really hard to forgive and move on when you're in the pain of a broken heart. And if that's you, you might want to check out our ABCs of Healing. It's a free video where we take you through how to get over heartbreak quickly so you can start to forgive and release that baggage and move on and enjoy your life. And you can get that if you go to bit.ly/ABCs of Healing. Now, Wonderful Life is a dialogue, not a monologue, and we want to hear from you. I want to know from you. Have you forgiven your parents? Put that in the comments and let us know. You can always connect with us at OneDerfulLife.com. We post a new blog there every Friday. You might want to join our newsletter list, and we have some cute merchandise there for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Wonderful Life.